free agency is where more mistakes than home runs happen every year. And I actually think
everyone listening is nodding their head in their car. They're like, yes, keep going.
I think this is the year where I don't foresee a lot of super long deals. Somebody's going to get 6 years for sure, but I don't think, because it's the length of the contracts that normally crushes teams even more than the cap hit. Sometimes a combination of both, but a lot of times it's the length. And, there's just not a lot of guys that I see teams willing to want to go more than 6 years with. And I'll be curious to see how many.
I don't think there's any
to even get 4 or 5, right? So
I don't think there's anyone that gets more than 6 years.
No, I wouldn't. I don't see any reason to, unless somebody gives you 7 years at like, was it, who was Nashville signed like a depth guy for 7 years? Yarncroc, I think it was.
No, I think it was Colton Sissons they signed, and then they had, they signed the player, Tampa signed the player that they traded for, right? Hold on.
I'm pretty sure Calle Yarncroc got a 7-year deal once.
Colton Sissons was 7 years, $20 million. But he was a guy that was in their system.
That was 6 years it was 6 years with the Preds for at $2 million a year for Yarncroc. So
I think teams actually get themselves into trouble with those contracts. Like, look at someone like the Kings did it a long time back. Who was that player that they signed to that major long-term deal?
But like $2 million for like Yarncroc turned out to be a really good contract at $2 million. Right.
I think Kyle Clifford's the guy I'm thinking of. 5 years, $8 million.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's just like, I feel like whenever you do that and you go super long term with a guy that is toward the bottom of your lineup in terms of depth pieces, bottom 6, they never really seem to work out all that well.
Yeah. Well, that was Nashville's thing, though. And Sissons was worked out, I think. Yarncroc definitely did. He was a pretty solid player for them, but mostly the long term is what crushes. And I look at teams this year, and I'm very curious. I saw your rankings. Tyler Bertuzzi is an interesting one for me to see where he goes. I think Colorado, JT Compher is going to stay there, especially with the Landeskog news. I'd be like, they don't have much center depth. I'd be surprised if he leaves, unless some team really wants to overpay him. And that's really what it comes down to, Frank, is I think free agent class this year, there's going to be, if you want to make more money, go ahead. There'll be teams out there that'll do it for you. But if you want a chance to be on a competitive team, you're probably going to take a little bit less to stay. Like a guy like Nick Bjugstad. I think Nick Bjugstad could get way more on the open market than he would get in Edmonton. But having got to the second round and actually, like, it was the first time he ever won a series in his career this year. And he talked about how it was amazing for him.
He was a healthy scratch for all of the Wild playoff games last year.
Yeah. And I look at a guy like Bjugstad and I wonder, does he say, hey, do I take more money? Because the guy scored 17 goals in the regular season. He's 6'6". There's always intrigue. He can win faceoffs. Someone will give him $2.5 million if he wants it. But would he take less to stay in a team that he thinks can be competitive? And I think there's going to be a lot of guys like that.
The problem is the Oilers can't really afford to pay him much more than $1 million.
Well, it depends what they do with the Yamamoto. I think they could get close to like 1.8 with Bjugstad crunching the numbers. I think that would work. But I think
you're wrong on someone like JT Compher, though. Not to say that he's out to get all the money, but this is the one. He doesn't have another crack at free agency.
But he's won. See, that's the difference.
Well, that does help. I also think Colorado has a decision to make. Like, first off, we didn't ask the Nichushkin question, and no one really has. Is Nichushkin just going to step right back into the lineup like nothing ever happened after the mysterious circumstances of his personal issue and reason? That, I think, is a real question to go along with Landeskog. Like, what really happened? And more to the point, is the NHL investigating what happened? 2, what about Sam Girard? Because I think if they aren't keeping Landeskog, obviously don't mean not keeping. If they're putting him on LTIR, obviously they have a significant amount of space. They don't have to trade Sam Girard like they kind of did before. They could probably keep Girard and JT Compher at market price and then find a way to cut somewhere else. But it's going to be tight, and you're probably going to have to make the decision, Compher or Girard.
Well, if I look at what was Colorado's biggest weakness this year, it's scoring depth. They basically, this will be 2 years in a row that they're without their second line from the year before when they won the cup. No Burakovsky, no Kadri, no Landeskog. Two of them were on other teams, and Landeskog didn't play a game, and he's not going to play a game next year. You lose JT Compher, okay, fine, but who are you going to replace him with? I guess you go out there and you look and like, is Ryan O'Reilly coming back to Colorado? Right? Like, what other centers are there? Like Jordan Stahl's a really good player. I'm not sure how much offense he brings you. So what are the other center options realistically to bring in? Right? Like there's just not a lot on this.
Kevin Hayes, like you're going to have to look on the trade market.
Yeah. Well, then you got to give up more assets. So now you've lost Compher for nothing, and you're going to have to give up more assets to get a guy who's, Kevin Hayes is a good player, but how good is he?
I think he probably gives you a little more than JT Compher.
You think, eh?
It's close.
Yeah.
Compher did have 52 points this year, but Kevin Hayes can kind of give you 25 goals and 55 points, and he's a really good defensive player. I don't know. Like, do you go with the guy you have, or can you? I think you can trade for Kevin Hayes at a $3.5 or $4 million cap hit.
So this is what I would do then, Frank. I would trade for Hayes, and I would keep Compher, and then I would trade Sam Girard, because I think defensive depth is not Colorado's weakness. Like, that's still their strength. They got Makar and they got Taves. Like, they got good defense, and Bowen Byram. Like,
yeah,
I really like their blue line. Right. So
if you think about Colorado's back end, Girard, that's why he's a trade candidate. Girard, he plays the fourth most minutes.
Yeah,
it's a great luxury. It's a great luxury to have. But
and they won the cup without him.
But if you're Colorado, you go for like a slight downgrade. You say, I'm going to trade Girard for maybe a different stylistic fit. I'm going to then sign Radko Gudas to 3x3 and plug him in on the back end with some heft and size.
Yeah, or Scott Mayfield.
Someone.
Like Scott Mayfield, I think there's a defender that the guy knows how to defend. He plays 20 minutes a night. He kills penalties. Now, the Islanders' power play is terrible. And, on a good team, I don't think Scott Mayfield's getting you much power play time. But he's 6'5". He's really what the NHL likes, is defensive defenders. He's a player. Gabranson got 4. Now, I know it's only one team, but I'm very curious to see, because Scott Mayfield, to me, he's in the JT Compher category. Like, this is his one and only chance to get a big hit.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
you're right.
And I think there's teams, he's got a lot of upside. There's a lot of things to like about Mayfield. I know people in New York, maybe, you don't follow the Islanders very well, but Scott Mayfield, man, he is a guy that I would target. And if I was a competitive team, I'm like, I don't want a guy who just knows how to defend. I don't need him to get it. If I don't need a lot of offense, he'd be ideal. And if you could change Sam Girard and then probably Mayfield at 3.1 or 2, you save $2 million. I think you get a better fit for your team.
Mayfield he's not going to play for that cheap.
No, I said 3. You think he's getting more than 3.2?
Yeah. I think he's closer to 4 than he is 3.
Okay. Even
still within the realm of possibility, but
even if he's 3.7, let's say that you're
this projection is 3 times 3.75.
Yeah.
And I think he's actually probably a bit north of that.
Yeah. And even if he's there, you're still saving money. And I think you're getting a better fit, because Sam Girard, as you said, is a luxury on Colorado because they've got enough offense from their back end. They don't need more. So get better fits for what you are. And Mayfield is a really big, solid, strong defender. And man, Islander fans would probably lose their mind that Colorado has Mayfield and Taves. They stole Taves from them a few years ago. It's like Calgary fans watching the Panthers right now, Frank. You got to have nightmares on Bennett and Tkachuk and even Ryan Lomberg. Many number crunching guys thought Lomberg was terrible. The guy scored 12 goals. He scored an overtime winner that I still think should have counted. And then he scored another big goal in game 4. Like, he's been really good. He's a buzzsaw. He's a grit guy for them. And he's not expensive.
So what do you think was the wackiest projection on this board? I'll give you mine. Speaking of Islander fans, Pierre Engvall at 4 times 4.1 is like mind blow. I don't think there's any chance that happens.
No.
And I thought Jason Zucker at 5 times 5.4. The guy's been a walking Band-Aid for the last few years, has a healthy year finally and a great year at 27 goals. But no one is giving him a 5-year deal.
No. Well, the other one to me, and I think he'll look for, but Max Domi at 5 times 4.75.
I thought that one was a little rich too.
For whatever reason, teams haven't wanted to commit to him on a long-term deal. Now he said he's looking for some stability, and I understand it. He's sick of wanting to move around all the time. So, but
I actually think at 4.75 that's a pretty good value. I'm not saying the term, but at that price, he had 56 points in the regular season and 20 goals. He's scored 20 more than once now. I personally look at him and I go, his numbers all seem to indicate he's worth more than what is written on that sheet. And he's had a great playoff.
Yeah. Oh no, I think he could get. I think he can get 4 times, 4.5. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
4 times 5 seems right.
I'm very interested to see where Alex Killorn goes and how much does he have left. And will a team want to give him term? Because that guy's got a lot of miles on his body, man. He's got a lot of experience. He's a good player. He's a huge man. And so maybe he'll be, but those guys, Frank, historically, bigger guys, not fleet of foot, the speed of the game and age seems to catch up with them a little bit more than other players.
I think the projection is spot on. You look at Andre Palat last year going to New Jersey. He got the extra year. He got 5 times 6.
Mm-hmm.
Palat's numbers are actually a bit south of Killorn. And yeah, he's 1 or 2 years younger, but I think 4 years times 5.25 million is like bang on. Someone is going to pay it.
Now, like he turns 30 to start this season. So
Killorn,
Killorn's 34.
33.
34,
yeah.
Right? He turns 34 in September. So
yeah.
That's
4 years. It sounds right. You might be eating the last year, but 5.25, like he had 64 points last year and 27 goals.
Oh, hey, he's a good player. He also
where Killorn actually makes some sense to me, and you're gonna laugh because we just had this conversation, but like a place like Carolina, that makes sense.
Yeah. See,
I would even say a place like Florida, that makes sense.
Yeah. See, Florida, I could see more. Like I really think Carolina needs a top-notch center, is what they need.
Killorn would be pretty good, I think, in Calgary too.